Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, November 16th, and this is Morning Market Movers, where we do live analysis for day trading, take a look at hot spots in the markets for today. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me is Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. Before Brian and I jump into it, I do need to share this disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. So, what are we looking at today? In fact, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. First up, we're going to be talking about what happened over in the UK. Last night, in the middle of the night, they announced, or at least in the middle of the night for us, they announced their employment numbers. Employment change. They are adding people to the payrolls, and their unemployment rate is dropping. With that, we are seeing some continued strength in the pound, particularly against the euro. So, with euro weakness and pound strength, we've got some interesting things to take a look at there. Then what we're going to be talking about really is today. This is what everyone's going to be talking about. It's retail sales, and retail earnings. So one, we've had a couple of big retail earnings come out this morning. Walmart and Home Depot both blowing it out. There's stories there. I'll let Brian discuss it. But retail earnings, even in the face of inflation, the retail customer seems to be in a good spot and is prepared to buy things, and people are even getting ahead of it with all the concerns about bottlenecks and potential supply shortages, worrying about what's going to happen at the holidays. People are already spending now. We also just saw this with retail sales. U.S. retail sales came in at 1.7%. In fact, it came in at up 1.7% when you take out cars. So really, I mean, it really is. It's kind of a blowout number. The retail customer is engaged. We are seeing U.S. equities trying to open in the green today. And then lastly, if we've got some time, we'll probably take a peek over at nat gas because sure, it got cold. Everyone's turned on their heaters, and so they're
Mhm.
running up the price of nat gas. So Brian, let's start with what's going on, and we're going to see and talk about this euro pound trade, and
Mhm.
then we'll jump over to the retail stuff.
Yeah, we mentioned euro pound yesterday, and we've mentioned that the pound has really been a little bit farther ahead on its recovery. Again, less nations to worry about. It's only one. You can see pound yen is up 98 in the last 24 hours. Euro pound down 70, which is a huge move. That's the one that we mentioned yesterday. And then you're seeing the euro is getting hammered from it as well. But as Todd mentioned, a lot of this comes from the UK jobs report. We mentioned that December was going to be a very, very big time. Everybody's kind of forecasting all their changes, QE, whatever you want to call it, is all ending in December, tapering. Um, and just kind of give you an extra of this. This is actually on Daily FX. If you just click on the pound yen, you can see the news right there. You guys can go read the rest of the article. But talks about how the latest UK jobs report was stronger than economists had predicted, with employment above expectations, the unemployment rate down, and average earnings higher than forecast. That has made an interest rate increase by the Bank of England next month almost certain, although the markets are
Someone's got
unsure
to
how
start
large it'll
doing
be.
it, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, New Zealand's already done it, and they're not seeing any backlash. Nothing. It's not hurting them whatsoever. And it's kind of like, all right, we know that. And again, inflation is the biggest issue. So, again, they've already telegraphed that the market is going to start adjusting to it. It's not all going to be in one day. We'll see it kind of continuing, but it's definitely a pound strength situation. Now, we talked about the euro pound yesterday. Let me go across over here. Euro pound.
There it is.
Um, we were sitting right. Let me go ahead and do my little circle right here yesterday. Okay, and we mentioned that whoops, I don't want to move that one. We mentioned that we wanted to see a little bit of a pullback, and we did. We got the pullback right at that 9:30 time frame. It's something if we drop down on the 15-minute, you can see that it came down at base and it came back up again, giving that entry, and it drove all the way down. So the trade that the kind of the setup we talked about yesterday came to fruition. It ended up pausing right before kind of the full 84.61 on the other side. But we mentioned the one thing that we liked about this trade, and this is for everything in general. Whenever you see these long-bodied candles, and it's like, wow, look at that. That's called a racetrack. Okay. We were waiting for the break, and again, we got the break, and it ended up pushing all the way back down. Now, it ended up going through this level. Now, this was a tested level. It was a news-based level. And now what it did is it actually ran into kind of a little bit of a lower level below that. But right now, I would say at this point, it's moved so much in the overnight based off of all the news. You got to kind of say, is it an area where we're willing to take this one short? Again, one of the big mistakes that people make is after you see a huge down run in price, they start selling it. They're trying to jump onto the end. That's where the reversals really come in. And really from at like 5, 6 o'clock this morning is really where we saw this kind of push back up. We're kind of at a pass right now. We've had a new high right on this pullback, and we have a higher low. Okay, it is driving back down right now. We are seeing kind of the session changeover. So the question is, if this low is able to hold, are we going to get another new high? And again, is that going to signify a trend change? So there's going to be some profit taking in this one. Again, I think the real trade setup was going into Monday, kind of taking this one short. We did bounce off a level, although it's not a level. It did turn off of it, but it wasn't a level that I'd be willing to take a long from.
Right.
I would say 84.06 is probably the next best level in my eyes. And then again, if we're looking to jump on board this after a lot of the sellers kind of get themselves out, I think we do need to talk about a level sitting right here at 84.74, right? It was a decent level of basing, and then all that news came in and really drove it back down again. So I would expect it to come back up. Again, this final piece of it, this yesterday was not it. This piece today was purely news-based. I would expect it to roll back again. It may or may not do it today, but I think 84.74 is something to put on the radar. Again, this level was not an area we went long off of because, again, it was kind of the target to the downside, but you can see how it's more or less bouncing off of it. So we'll remove it, and I would say this is the level currently right here. If you guys want to see, it shouldn't be red. It's not a sell. Let's change it to yellow. Let's go back. You can see that it was this level right here. This pop, basically, it was a hold from here, popped up, came over, and then kind of a run along the zone. So not a zone I was really looking to go long off of because, again, I wanted to get a little bit lower on that one. But that's the zone that we're dealing with right now. And again, I would say that if anything, we'll see if it's able to base through, there is a little bit more of a runner to the downside. So there may be some more opportunity, although I'd be very cautious at this point. With profit taking and the market closing down, we do have enough room for another 1 to 3 in there. So, could we see a continuation in this? Sure. But right now the ball is in Europe's court. We'll see what the ECB has to say. There has been some headlines out of there, but none of them as strong as what the pound is saying. But we do know December, that's when all the targeted the newly focused QE is ending. So we got 2 weeks and it's off to the races. It's going to be who can cut taper and raise interest rates fastest. Going to be a lot of action pretty soon.
And right. And when that starts happening, it's when we start seeing those moves, the binary options, and you'll have to check your different durations and your different levels. But there's definitely going to be some opportunity in the Nadex binary options. All right. With that, let's go ahead and talk about these retail sales. I mean, these retail sales figures were great. Retail earnings have been great.
Yep.
We've got equities. They were sold off a little overnight. Now we're actually looking to open in the green, which and it's interesting because it's in these big retailers, Walmart and Home Depot. Some of these, the actual stores where they've got supply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So far, what we've heard is there's no products. We're not going to have toys. Kind of sounds like fear mongering for me. Amazon has said that, we can't get it. Amazon's data, though, is based off a bunch of different retailers getting things thrown at the warehouses. It directly relies upon goods and services from China. Walmart, on the other hand, and again, looking at the Walmart's earnings, it paints a completely different story. And I have it on my phone, so I'm looking down. The statement made last night by the CEO said, "We have the people, the products, and the prices to deliver a great holiday season for our customers and members." It says Walmart, which has been chartering its own vessels to move goods, said U.S. inventory is up 11.5% ahead of the busy festive season. They got no problems. Supply chain, yeah, it's an issue, but we'll just hire our own ships and we'll bring it on ourselves. So the people that have been proactive, and remember, Ford also not having a problem. Their profits were driven by the fact that they have all the CPUs that they need again. All the chips that they were supposedly unable to get before, like, we got no problem getting chips. That's why we're making so much money now. We're getting the chips. So it kind of goes back to the same thing that we heard. Supposedly we were going to run out. There was no oil. Nobody could get oil, but all we're seeing is surplus, 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 surplus. So the reality and the perception are completely different. Walmart says I have absolutely no problems. Retail sales is also justifying it. Remember, if there were no goods and services that we could buy, how the heck is retail sales up?
How is so clearly
Nothing. We can't get anything
there's
in.
an out trade, and it's a difference
Yep.
between and it's what's interesting to me is it's the big retailers that have gone out and solved the problem themselves,
Mhm.
and they
Yep.
seem to be doing fine. Some of the smaller retailers, which I know is going to be difficult, who might not have the wherewithal to go buy their own cargo ship. Um, those folk, it's going to be it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them. With that, I mean, I definitely think we want to take a look at what's going on in the Dow. But I mean, if you've got more to talk about interest rates and inflation, we know
Yeah.
inflation's here. We know it's here. The question
Mhm.
is, what's the retail trader going to do about it? And in the end, right now we're seeing equities slightly in the green.
Mhm.
Let's find out what the retail
Yeah.
trader
Yeah.
thinks in a half hour when
Yeah,
when they get a
and
chance to
that's
get
the
in.
thing. This is kind of one of those almost, is it too good, right? It's too good. And the reason I flipped over real quick is because Bullard, who I believe who, if Powell is out, I believe that he is the one that should take over. I believe that he is the most in touch with what's going on in the markets. He agrees that markets are a two rate hike is needed, two different rate hikes in 2022. Talking about that, probably don't have to raise interest rates as high as they were for pre-pandemic to restore interest rates to pre-pandemic levels. And one may claim that the taper has already been priced in, right? And he's one of the hawkish guys. And hawkish tilted Fed could also play up. Yep. So, you know, it's one of those things. It's great. It should be wonderful. Everybody should be super excited in the market, except that if inflation is so bad, right? Here's the problem. The problem is everybody knows inflation here. Everybody agrees inflation is here. Everybody's getting used to paying inflationary based prices, and we're seeing retail sales drive higher. Why would you
So
lower prices if you're blowing your estimates
right.
out?
Oh, of course they're not going to. They're going to take their profits.
Right.
People are prepared, which
Yeah.
actually goes to the point that that the retail customer seems to be in a pretty good situation right now
Yeah. Well,
because
and
I
and
mean, if
like I
they
said,
didn't
we
have the
just
money, they wouldn't be spending it.
no, and
So
they got $550 checks yesterday. So Walmart is like, hey, send those checks to us. We got you. We
so
got it. So
let's take a peek at what we got going on in the Dow. Because I think that's where we tend to seeing it. We're seeing the move uh, the most.
yeah, I mean, we talked about 36,000 yesterday. We ended up getting all the way back down to that 36,000 mark and then kind of bouncing off of it a few times. So what I think is interesting about this one is it's really making these big jumps. You can see that, obviously, right below, really the 3650 has been a big area. If you wanted to draw kind of an area in here, you can see we keep touching that same area around 35,950. It did turn off that top level. It came back down. It's using that, the right below that 36,100 again as another area. I think today, as good as this looks, I think, if anything, I would say it's probably more set up for a negative day than it is a positive day. The reason why is because if retail sales are continuing to climb at a better rate, remember, the big concern about raising interest rates is not that banks and things like that are going to loan at a higher rate. It's the fact that it's going to hurt businesses. Retail
Right.
sales skyrocketing, being that much higher than forecast, Walmart extending that's giving us the exact same picture. If we're blowing retail sales out and they raise interest rates to curb inflation, which everybody hates, which is not really necessarily, it's way too high, it should bring everything back down again. So if it was like zero point 0.1 or zero point 0.2 above, they're not going to rush to do this any faster. Seeing a retail sales at 1.7, knowing that,
It's going to expedite
yeah,
the
yeah,
inflation. It's going. I mean,
yeah,
it's just going to amplify the effect of it.
absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, and remember, that scarcity there is great for business. Oh my God, we can't get anything, but we have the only 5 toys. You got to buy it from here, and this is the price. If you want it, great. Otherwise, sorry, Santa's going to upset a lot of kids this year. So people are going to buy it. So it's only going to make it, like I said, it's only going to make it worse. It's also going to speed up
Exacerbate
how
it.
fast they rinse. And again, our first raise may not be a 0.25 raise.
It could
The
be a
first
half a
raise
percent.
may be a 0.5 if they're only
Yeah.
going to do it twice, so they can kind of put it on there very, very fast. So it's one of those things. It was a good number? Yeah. Is it too good? It kind of may be, you know?
Yep. So fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Lastly, we've got the supply. Demand is going to go up now because, of course, it's getting cold. Can we take a peek
Yeah.
at what's going on over at Nat Gas before we call it a day? Because this
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Natural gas actually just for another level. And the problem with natural gas right here is, I mean, we had this really, really big fast down kind of down run, right? The 9th of November wasn't really a whole lot of sellers anywhere in here. We went from the 540 really all the way down to the 490, right below that $5 mark. So unfortunately, that's what we're kind of dealing with. We did come up, and you're seeing it kind of chop back and forth right now. But I can say, at least here in Maryland, it was 36 degrees this morning when I took the boys to school. So kind of one of those things. Is it now is when everybody's like, oh my god, I should fill up natural gas. Oh my god, it's low, which again is going to also drive this higher. So yeah, it's probably justified to go a bit higher. I mean, it typically does at this point. It's funny that it used that 476 as kind of a rollover point. Right now, there's not really a whole lot. I mean, there's a little bit of drama going on right over here at $5.34, but not really a whole lot there. And again, seeing temperatures drop down. Remember, it's one of those things. All year, it's climate change, and then all of a sudden we get to the cold, and it was like, oh my god, this cold is horrible. It's so bad. It's like, make up your mind. Do you want it to be hotter, or you do not want it to be hotter? You know,
Well,
you
we know
can't.
it's going to be dramatic swings in temperature. I just think
Yeah,
it's interesting that they ran up nat gas before it got cold in expectations of it being cold, sold it off as we actually went into winter,
and it was warm.
and
Yeah, the first month
and
was warm.
now and then as soon as it starts getting cold again, they're running it back up again.
Yeah, yeah, and again, it is supposed to be a milder winter, so I mean, it's one of those things that did you expect a retracement on it? Yeah, you expected it to come back up again because that was. I mean, if you look at it, if I zoom out a little bit, you guys can see the fall that it had. I mean, we were all the way up here at
It was
$6.20.
crazy, and
That was
and people weren't using it.
right, and
Supplies
that's
just
October. Yeah. Well, actually, here, let me go back 30 minutes. That's October 7th. Actually, I guess from the first one, and then we crashed all the way down. So, I mean, this is crashing. I mean, look at the crashes in this. When we had that last crash, I mean, that's 14 days. Yeah, 13 days that we had that big of a crash, all the way up from 650 all the way down to 4. So I mean, it moves quick. So just because we're having a bit of a retracement here, I mean, even if you just want to throw some basic fibs on there, you can see that we're getting really, really close to a 50% retracement. That's you could take it from the very, very top, but you really should take it from this level here. And again, part of this, and you can see it right here. Actually, it is interesting for like the trend traders.
yep,
There would have been your trend line, and again, pretty much right on the fib line. Right when it breaks, it's going to have that artificial pop, and that looks like exactly what it is. But
yep.
right now, we're pretty close to a level on a 30-minute. Looks like we have the 50% coming in right here, which is actually sitting right below a level. And again, right at that 61, we also had another level 2 that was tested.
So
So
we
it
might,
looks like,
if it gets up there, that's where we'll see some resistance.
yeah, it looks like there could be some potential trades up in the 530 to 540 area. So,
All right.
yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, with that, any questions for Nadex, please email us customerservice@nadex.com.
Troy said yes. I just saw a comment come through. It says, can you do the same on stocks too, or just Forex?
Yeah, all of it.
Yep, it's the same. Technical analysis.
and and then we've actually got and then you could also check out nadex.com. We've got some education out there as well. In fact, if you go to our YouTube channel, you might even find some videos up there that you'd find useful. If you got any questions for Brian, please email Brian at support@keeptradingsimple.com. He is also available. What did we talk? Oops. I went a little crazy there. There we go. What did we talk about today? We saw some strength in the British pound after their employment data, particularly with the euro pound, and then U.S. retail sales and retail earnings blowing it out. Something to certainly be paying attention to. And then lastly, nat gas creeping higher, of course, because it's getting cold and we're going to need to buy it. So with that, thank you so much for joining us. And Brian and I will catch you again tomorrow morning. Good luck in the markets, everyone.